to the Cracked Open podcast. I'm Lilia Aguero, and I'm your host for today's conversation with a dear friend of mine whose name is Thomas Leichardt, a rather interesting fellow whom I've had the pleasure of meeting several months ago. But I must say, my life has not been the same since. So I asked him to talk to us today about, just what makes him tick. What's the, what drives him? But without further ado, let's check in and see. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Lilia.
So, Tom, it's been amazing getting to know you.
Thank you.
And I think that, one of the things that really struck me about you is your fearlessness in exploring consciousness. So, there's one thing that I just thought, my God, I never thought I'd actually meet someone who is diving in deeply into channeling. That's like, whoa, that's another world, just, whoa, so intense. It's like, but I actually know someone, and it's you. So what got you into it? First of all, what is it, and what got you into it?
Yeah, so that's been a long journey of transformation. My interest in it has started with the Seth material. I used to read the Seth books left and right, up and down. I read each book multiple times.
Yeah. And
it just spoke to me, like, here, finally somebody gets it. Because in my early life, I just felt lost, like what is this realm? We all seem to be caught up in these routines and things we're told we have to do, fitting into all these different boxes, but I never felt like I fit into any of those.
Yeah.
And then the Seth material was like, oh my God, somebody gets it. Somebody's here talking about consciousness. Religion didn't exactly do it for me. Neither was my family religious to begin with.
I see. Okay.
And so that wasn't really a path.
Yeah.
I knew meditation had some answers, but I just felt like I needed more. And so when I started reading the Seth books, it really just kind of cracked all that open.
Indeed.
So, and that just, from there was like one thing led to another. I've always wanted to practice channeling, and I have dabbled in it in the past. But just it never really caught on fire as it has in the last, say, couple of months. It's really just come alive again as something.
For you?
Yes, to do
Got
myself.
It. Okay.
And of course it took getting into multiple channels over the years. I was into Abraham Hicks for a while, listened to them.
I see, okay.
But I felt like it didn't quite click in as something that I would be doing myself. Like there was that interest there, but I was like trepidation of like, yeah, I don't know if I could do that or if I have what it takes. Yeah. I didn't, get the calling one day like some of these people report, all of a sudden, Seth comes knocking in Jane's consciousness or...
Right.
Yeah, so I didn't get that big transformation of like, oh, this is what we're doing now. So...
Got it.
Nevertheless, I started listening to Bashar, another channel.
Oh, okay.
And it's like, that was like he's the one who basically says, follow your passion, just do it. He's all about the action, but action based in following your passion.
Okay.
And it was really just listening to him, and some of the questioners will literally ask him like, hey, I want to do what you're doing, how do I do it? And Bashar's answer is always pretty straightforward. Get a group of friends that are supportive, have them ask you questions, see what comes through, just do it. And so following his advice, I just started doing that and just was really pleasantly surprised and just really loving the process of it and really finally engaging with it in a way that it clicked.
Got it. So yeah. How long have you been actually practicing the channeling state now?
Well, when you say channeling state, probably all my life.
Ooh, okay.
But because it's very much like a meditative state where you tune inward. But channeling itself as like vocalizing the channeling into a word actively for just a couple of months.
Okay, I see.
But I have attempted it other times in the past. around 2011, 2012, I practiced even recording some vocal channeling, but it didn't catch fire, so to speak. It just sort of came in and just floated back out. But now I'm feeling like it's really just coming alive. I can just feel the energies inside me, and I know something's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So why bother though? Why even do it? I mean, if there's some people out there, okay, you mentioned Bashar and Seth and yeah, these folks who are engaged with it and so on and so forth. How are you finding the experience of channeling, just as how it's coming specifically through you?
Well, the reason to do it is really just the bliss of connection to higher dimensional consciousness. I mean, there's just nothing, it's indescribable. It's like you just really literally feel yourself expanding beyond the limits of time-space. And so I've always felt as a child like I was a bit trapped here and alone. So it takes care of those two factors. It's like you're not alone, there's help, and you're not trapped. You have you are consciousness that exists beyond third dimensional, beyond time-space parameters, and you can tap into that. It's who you are. We exist on all these different levels of consciousness, and being a consciousness explorer, wanting to see what, always knowing there's more than just the 3D. There's more than just, going to work, paying the bills, paying your taxes.
Exactly. It's like the day-to-day.
Yes, there's something more.
Which we have to do.
Right. But beyond that, there's a vast realm and web of consciousness, and I'm always interested in who are we? What are we? What's our purpose? And it's answering those questions for ourselves, discovering for ourselves what the answers are.
Okay. So versus having a guru telling you, a priest, whatever other teacher telling you.
And that is all well and good, because we do have teachers and they can emulate for us states of consciousness. They can be archetypes for us for our own awakening. They can guide us. But at the end of the day, I feel like the true transformation is a radical and personal self-realization. Realizing the self. Until you realize the self, there's always this idea of like you're not quite finding that peace that lights you up from the inside. It's like you're following a doctrine, you're following a prescription, you're following...
Right.
It's
and
like
how is it that one size fits all?
Exactly.
Okay, I see. Okay.
So we all have a connection to our higher minds and to these dimensions, and so channeling, it's not that it's a special art for only some people. It's like literally all of us are being called to awaken to higher dimensional consciousness and to infuse this dimension with that, with our passion, with just being able to translate higher dimensional consciousness, which to me, as Bashar often says, it comes through as passion, as joy, as excitement, as truly living your dreams, as creativity, as love. It's that ability to bring that in and then to act on it and infuse this world with that consciousness. So all of us have that capacity. And so the channeling state is really about being able to tap into your true joy and to do it, whether that's gardening, whether that's singing, whether that's being an actor, whether that's raising your children, whatever your passion is you're bringing in a higher dimensional consciousness when you act on it. And so I think all of us, we're all here to truly discover a type of channeling state whereby we bring more of ourselves into everything that we do.
Okay, so you're really trying to spiritualize matter. You're
Exactly.
really trying to spiritualize the diaper changing, I mean, for lack of a better term, that was a big part of my world for a while.
Right.
Okay. Wow, okay.
It's about truly living an inspired life. And as the word literally means, inspired, to be in spirit.
To be in spirit. I like that.
Yes.
Now, can you give me an example of how channeling really, like in your life, how channeling made a difference, how channeling helped you to spiritualize, let's say, some aspect of your life, of the day-to-day, of the 3D? Where have you seen it really making a difference? What difference did it make?
Well, first of all, it's this feeling of feeling connected.
Okay.
It's like I just have a sense of feeling connected to myself, to the universe. And it's like having a best friend that's really you, that it's the greater part of you that exists in non-physical, that you can always tap into at any time and truly receive guidance and just receive support, guidance, inspiration. You know, what's the next step to take here? What's the next thing to focus on? These basic questions of life, it's like you have this capacity to go within and to ask and to receive that guidance coming through you.
Right.
And that can inform anything and everything. But it infuses life with a kind of multi-dimensional consciousness where everything takes on a richer, deeper meaning, almost like a symbolic meaning where you see your life not only as the third dimensional way that it unfolds, you're also seeing it almost as if you would interpret a dream, where everything that comes is there for a reason. There are no accidents. You start seeing the universe is a grand orchestration. And so once you understand there's no accidents, you can actually unpack the conditions of your life and see, okay, what is the growth here? What am I here to learn? What you know? And then you can ask for guidance on that. You have a circumstance that you don't like. Well, why is that there? It's
or
there
where you
for a
feel
reason.
stuck.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So, is there a situation, something in your life where you felt stuck? Could you give an example of that?
That's a really good question. A recent life or in...
Yeah. Just where you utilized the wisdom coming through the channeling to help you crack it open. Where you've been stuck.
That's a good question. Well, there's how we relate to people.
Oh, tell me.
And just receiving...
Wow.
Yeah, just receiving...
Yes.
Insight on how I hold on to certain negative beliefs that perpetuate a situation, for example, and how those negative beliefs are actually creating the experience that I'm having. And it's so the channeling, for me, the channeling is about self-inquiry.
I see.
And how am I showing up for this? How am I creating this particular situation that's uncomfortable? And just being able to ask, what I have to believe is true. So some of that is the personality work and digging into the negative beliefs. But then to be able to go into the channeling state and to, receive this sense of like, what, it's all right. You know what, this is not what it appears to be. This, like a situation recently I had was where I stopped communicating with someone that I care about. We had kind of a blow up situation.
Yeah.
And it was the ability to receive that higher dimensional perspective of like, you know what, you two are gonna be all right. Whereas my personality is just freaking out of like, oh my God, it's just, it's like you're kind of in the muck, like
Right.
That ancient Bible verse of like, walking through the valley of shadow. It's that sense of like you can't see around the next corner, you're not sure where you are, and then you fall into a situation where it just feels really dire, and it's like you can't see, but your higher self sees the mountaintop perspective, looks down into the valley and says, you got this, you're all right. It was that reassurance of like, guys will be talking within a week. It's not, don't worry about it.
And did it come true?
It totally came true, yes.
Oh, wow.
And it was literally like the
Wow.
channeled message that struck me was, this is going to work out for you in a way that will absolutely delight you. And my personality is just like, you gotta be kidding, you know what I mean?
Wow.
It's just, how could that be? We're not even speaking, we're all mad at each other, like all kinds of issues and whatnot.
A lot of drama?
Drama, yeah. It's
wow.
Basically like, just things just blew up, as as sometimes in relationships do. You get into these misunderstandings and whatnot. Yeah. And it was like, you're gonna be all right. It's like, yeah, you guys will give it a week. You'll come back together.
So I noticed that. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, and then in the meantime is doing the personality work of like, well, how am I showing up for this and how am I creating this? And then asking that question, what would I have to believe is true about myself in this situation to feel the way I do, think the way I do, behave the way I do, to find myself in this situation? That question comes from Bashar, from the channeled entity. So yeah, it's using channeled material to do the personality work as well.
So when you're channeling, because I mean, just in terms of Bashar, or I'm thinking of these other so-called channels, Lee Harris, and of these different folks, Jane Roberts.
Yes.
They had, quote, an entity.
Yes.
That they channeled. So you're not channeling an entity in the sense that they channel.
Correct.
An entity. What are you channeling?
To me, it feels like my higher self.
Your higher self.
Like higher self, soul, oversoul, however you want to frame that. It literally feels like I'm just going up and connecting to the soul, the oversoul level, that
of yourself.
It's ultimately of myself. Well, the paradox of all this is that ultimately all of us are aspects of all that is. And so it's like your higher self has a higher self, has a higher self, has a higher, all the way to all that is. So in a sense, it gets paradoxical when you talk about higher dimensional physics, for lack of better words, because ultimately from it, each person has a unique perspective within the universe, but each person is an aspect of all that is, as if all that is has a unique vantage point on the universe through each individual. So we're all, the classic saying, we're all one, is fundamentally true.
Yes.
As a basic reality. And so that being said, when you go into these higher levels of consciousness, you start recognizing you're channeling, different versions of your higher self, which also have other connections to other lives and whatnot. So I feel like the guidance comes in through this sort of like grand central station of the soul, but it can come from other aspects, other lives. If usually if you're opening up to these arts, you start considering, that, there's parallel lives or other lives, or people say past lives. But even if you want to keep it simple, channeling can literally just be, just higher self.
So, okay, so you're definitely tuned in to an aspect of yourself, and you had described it, the self-inquiry. I mean, I love that. I think, you are describing it beautifully. So, there's also, I've also heard of, just kind of like the trepidation of, opening up to these realms, and what if,
right.
You start encountering dark entities and what have you. I mean, I think there's a lot of that fear.
Yes.
We have a lot of fear. Hey, I was raised Catholic, we have a lot of baggage about that, or had, former I'm recovering. But you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do,
that
totally.
God knows, what we're going to be open, quote, God knows what we're going to open to.
Right.
So does that even figure in your awareness? Do you do something to address the possibility that you might connect with an entity? How do you work with that?
Honestly, it's just the way my frame of reference is I just don't worry about it. And it's not to say that there isn't, how to say this, I feel that like I know which frequency I'm tuning into. So
I see.
If I tune into, let's say, the 97.7 FM, I know what I'm going to get on that channel.
Right.
So I'm not tuning into like dark station central, because that's just not where my energy's going. I'm tuning,
Right.
It's like tuning a radio dial. So I know I'm tuning into these upper frequency bands, and there's nothing to worry about there.
You're not on the dark net.
Exactly.
Whoa.
So it's like,
Yeah.
but the paradox of it is, if you do have fear-based beliefs about that,
Right.
then that's something to work through. Because when you're going to go into these states and you have these fear-based beliefs, that's the vibration you're on, and so that's when you're likely to attract that stuff.
Wow. So
because it's frequency matching.
Okay. So all right. So if you're, for someone then who wants to embark on this journey and wants to engage in channeling as a way of self-inquiry, as a way of self-development, and so on, to be able to tap into this wisdom, then how would you recommend they start? It seems to me, I'm getting already the hint that it's really important that you be really clear about the channel you want to tune into.
Exactly.
Wow.
Well,
How do you make sure that you're
it's
tuned
frequency.
in correctly?
It's. I mean, it's just frequency. I mean, I literally. The intention is higher self.
So through intention.
Yes, it's also through the crown chakra. I just sense this connection moving upwards,
Okay.
and through the heart as well. And I don't even think about it honestly. It's just
Okay.
about
It doesn't even enter your mind.
because
You
it's
know,
like
these other things.
yeah, because it's like if on a physical realm level, when you're these days you press buttons. Back in the day you had the dial. You turned your
Right.
radio dial. You just if you want that station, that's what you tune. It really is that simple. And it's not like somebody's going to come in and change the dial on you. You're in control of that dial. And as long as you know that to be true, then there's nothing to worry about. If you
So you're in control.
if you have beliefs that you're not sure, then then you're going to have that trepidation and you're going to wobble all over the place. So you just want to be clear. That's the main thing, is just be clear. What you're contacting. Clear. And then the other thing is, it's like there's no way you can be fooled by dark entities, because they feel dark and yucky. And higher consciousness feels like higher consciousness. So you can always trust your feelings. And like I know when I'm connecting to the soul level, it just feels beautiful. It feels expansive. It feels like light. It feels like love. Like how can you mistake that for what feels like darkness and separation and segregation and fear?
Yes.
It's very easy to tell. But granted, yes, it requires introspection and personal work and development and meditation and just having a clear sense but bottom line, just a knowledge of where your feeling states are. Because your feeling states will always indicate, am I running my energy through a fear-based belief, or am I running my energy through an integrative positive belief? And
so it sounds like we need that kind of level of awareness before we embark on. Don't try this at home. Just on channeling. Again, we could, I suppose, but then, if we start tapping into states that perhaps we don't intend because we're not clear about the intention. So it seems like that's probably a precursor or prerequisite.
Yes. Some basic understanding of where is my frequency at.
I see.
When I keep saying when I'm talking about the radio dial, it's the frequency is what is my feeling state. That is your indicator of where your vibration is. So if you're in fear, I mean, for me, it's like now I'm in a state where if I'm in a lower vibrational frequency, I can still tune upwards and receive guidance and clarity on that. But that's a little, like, shall we say, trickier. It's like pulling yourself out of a kind of a tight spot, so to speak. But that's something you can get very comfortable with as well. But the first thing is just, when you sit down to channel, you want to make sure you're in a feeling state of openness, of receptivity, but also of love, of, clear intention about higher dimensional frequency. And you're running your energy through a belief system at that time that tells you you're safe, you live in a safe universe, and that you got this, that you're in control of the frequency here, because you are ultimately.
What helped you to really cultivate that clarity of intention and state? To be aligned, to be in the way necessary for successful, clear channeling. Like, what did you do in preparation?
Yeah,
you mentioned meditation.
Yes, and I mentioned earlier it's been kind of a lifelong process.
Okay.
And it has been. So in a way, my life has led. It's like stepping stones. Everything led to. It's not just that I started. 2-3 months ago, like intensely doing this. It's that there's been many stepping stones that led to that.
Right.
And not that my life has to be the same as other people's lives, but I started being interested in meditation in high school.
Okay. Which is about focus and stillness and quieting the mind.
Exactly. And I read Tao Te Ching. I had a class in high school called Mythology of the Wilderness.
Oh, interesting.
So we read some interesting things in there. There was literature of counterculture. So I had some pretty interesting...
Oh, that's a great class.
Early experiences of being exposed. So like Tao Te Ching, there was the... Shenryu Suzuki, I think was his name. Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. Some of these books were coming to me early on. And
wow, you were in the right class at the right time. I'm just thinking, I don't think I've ever heard of a high school class that offered
that.
this.
Yeah,
That
it was two different classes.
That's
Literature
incredible.
of counterculture and then the mythology of the wilderness.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, and that started me, and I was already searching, thinking that there's got to be more to this than just like, get educated, get a career, make money, all the trappings of third dimensional, check that box, check that box. There was something deeper, and then so these books started coming into my life, and then once that journey started, it just never ended. So it was meditation, then it was qigong, then it was more meditation constantly throughout. Shamanic studies was one of the early, there was all kinds of different ways I explored consciousness, and particularly through meditative arts and being present in your body. And so once you have that sense of like, what's going on, what you're feeling, then you know exactly where you're at.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Great. So Tom, what's next? I mean, you've started this, you've sort of opened this Pandora's box. What's the next step on this journey?
Well, the journey so far has been to practice channeling with inviting friends over, having them ask questions, receiving a channeled message. So it's really just following on that trajectory. I'm noticing that, first I was channeling for you, then I was channeling for, somebody else, then it's, 2 people, and then it's 3 people. So just letting it just unfold in its own natural way. I do like the group channelings because it just feels like it's more dynamic. And I'm just getting more and more comfortable with it. I'm noticing more and more there's like a message that comes through for the group. And then sometimes it opens up to Q&A. Sometimes it just feels like it's more about just meditating together afterwards and being in the energy. But the general idea is just keep going and seeing where it takes me. But I do want to offer this to more people because I feel like there's just so much value that comes from creating that channeling space and participating in this, practicing this, and helping other people open up to their own sense of channeling and connecting to their higher selves. So I feel like by me doing this, by me following my passion, I'm helping other people tune into their passion and follow their passion.
That sounds like a good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and it sounds like this is a co-creative endeavor.
Absolutely. In a way, I feel like I'm demonstrating something a gift that all of us have. We all have higher minds. We all come from the multi-dimensions, and we can all tap in. So this is a matter of, by me doing it, it's almost like I give others permission to do it as well, because you see somebody and you say, oh, I can do that too. And the messages that come through are very encouraging, and always, it's not about like, oh, this is something that only I can do or only certain people can do. We all can do this. And the messages that come through for others are very much encouraging them to find their passion, to find their channeling state, to bring through the art or the skill that truly brings life to them, that makes them come alive.
It's beautiful. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing your steps on this journey, which is just fascinating, and these explorations into consciousness. And I can't wait to, actually participate in a group channeling session, which, by the way, we will have the opportunity to do so next time. So join me once again when we get together and actually have the opportunity to engage in a live channeling session with Tom. Thank you.
Thank you, Lilia.